Step back in time to the 1960s and rediscover 10 everyday items that were once absolute must-haves, but are now completely obsolete. From music to cultural norms and to outdated technology, these things were everywhere back in the day, but have since fallen out of favor. So, what's outdated from the 60s? Let's find out. Starting at number 10, we have the glass milk bottles. In the 1960s, milk was delivered daily in glass bottles right to your doorstep by a milkman, often in the early morning hours. Before refrigerators became popular, almost every home had a milk door. These small doors, usually located near the kitchen or pantry, allowed milkmen to deliver fresh milk in glass bottles without entering the home. The milkman would deliver the milk through the milk door or into a household billy, a small metal bucket often left on the doorstep of the home, and the house's residents would get the milk from there. The milkman could also pick up empty bottles from there. These glass milk bottles were made from thick, durable glass that could be washed and sterilized repeatedly before refilling and reusing. Today, most of us get our milk from the grocery store in cartons or plastic jugs. How did we connect with family and friends back in the 60s? Well, we have landline phones. Remember old-fashioned landline phones that were plugged into the wall? They used to be a common feature in homes, especially older ones. They've been around since the late 1800s. Landline phones are connected to the phone network by a wire and are usually attached to a wall or sit on a desk in a fixed spot. These phones used to be the main way people stayed connected at home. They were reliable and worked well for a long time, but they have now been replaced by cell phones. Telephones used to be placed in a special small space called a telephone nook, a small enclosed space designed to hold a telephone. It was usually in a hallway or foyer, and it was designed to accommodate the big phones of that time. Many telephone landlines have been disconnected or turned into decorative items. Telephones remind us of the past and how people used to communicate. And even though they are no longer needed, they're still a very exciting feature to explore in many older homes. Another vintage object everyone adores is the film camera. The 1960s saw the rise of several film players that revolutionized the way people consumed movies. Some of the most popular film players of the decade include film projectors, which were used in cinemas and home projection systems. We also have 8mm film cameras, which allow people to shoot their own home movies, Super 8 film cameras, and 16mm film cameras, used by professionals and enthusiasts. Some popular brands of film players and editing machines in the 1960s included Kodak, Bell & Howell, Arriflex, Moviola, and Steenbeck. With the rise of smartphone cameras, film cameras became obsolete, but they are still highly valued and are now kept as vintage objects. These film players played a significant role in shaping the film industry and home movie culture of the 1960s. Speaking about obsolete items, say hello to typewriters. Although some are still used for niche purposes, computers and word processors have mostly replaced manual typewriters. The 60s was the peak of the manual typewriter era. Every office had one. Professionals, writers, and even students used these machines for everything from typing letters to crafting novels. It was the primary tool for creating neatly typed letters, reports, and documents. No backspace or delete button existed to correct mistakes, but there was something magical about the clicking sound of the keys. Of course, computers have replaced typewriters, and now we barely even use physical keyboards with voice-to-text technology. Regardless, a certain charm about the good old typewriter still remains. Those who lived in older homes will remember how indispensable this next one was back then. You may have at one point or the other heard any of your parents or grandparents call your refrigerator an icebox. Yes, that is because before refrigerators existed, people used ice boxes to keep their foods cool. The icebox was invented in 1802 by an American farmer named Thomas Moore, who used the icebox to transport butter from his home to the Georgetown markets. It allowed him to sell firm and brick butter, unlike his fellow vendors who sold soft, melted tubs. Ice boxes were delivered by the Iceman, and they would put big blocks of ice inside. They were fancy, and having one showed you were wealthy. Ice boxes were an important part of older homes. They helped families keep food like meat, milk, and fruit from getting spoiled. They were a big improvement over older food storage methods like root cellars and spring houses. This greatly contributed to the improvement of the population's health by increasing the readily made fresh food to be consumed and the overall safety of that food. Despite their aesthetic values and uniqueness, these household features have been replaced by modern architecture due to the influence of social media and home decor trends, as well as pressure to conform to contemporary styles and aesthetics. All of these vintage features, even though outdated, bring back memories of our childhood, family, and happier times, connecting us to our past in a special way. And because of this, they will ever live in our memories. Here's another one from the 60s that we loved: phone books. In the 60s, phone books were important in the communication process. With the growth of telephone usage in the post-war era, phone books became an essential tool for finding phone numbers and addresses. Phone books were typically published annually by telephone companies and contained listings for residential and business phone numbers. They were organized alphabetically by last name or business name, making it easy to find the phone number and address you needed. Phone books also included listings for important services like emergency numbers, government offices, and utility companies. Phone books played a crucial role in connecting people and businesses. Phone books enabled people to easily find and contact each other, facilitating communication and commerce. They also helped to establish a sense of community with listings for local businesses and organizations. Only downside was that phone books were often thick and heavy, containing thousands of listings, organized alphabetically by surname or business name. Fortunately, with the advent of online directories and search engine tools, phone books began to fall out of favor. Today, phone books have largely become obsolete. Now let's take a trip back in time to explore the fascinating world of 1960s music technology. Before CDs, MP3s, and streaming services, people used a revolutionary new device to listen to music: the cassette player. How did cassette players become popular in the 1960s? Well, it all started with the introduction of the compact cassette in 1963. The compact cassette was a revolutionary new format that allowed people to record and play back music with ease. Cassette players quickly became a staple in many homes, cars, and portable boomboxes. Cassette players used a magnetic tape to record and play back sound. The tape was divided into two sides, with each side containing a separate recording. To play a cassette, you simply inserted it into the player, pressed play, and enjoyed your music. The impact of cassette players on music in the 1960s was huge. Cassette players allowed people to listen to music on the go, which revolutionized the way people consumed music. They also enabled people to create their own mixtapes, which became a popular way to share music with friends and loved ones. These portable music players were a must-have for music lovers in the 1960s, but they were eventually replaced by CDs, MP3s, and streaming services, which offered greater convenience and better sound quality. Today, cassette players are mostly collector's items, but they still hold a special place in the hearts of many retro music lovers. Another device used to listen to music back in the day is transistor radio. Before smartphones, MP3 players, and streaming services, people used a revolutionary new device to listen to music on the go: the transistor radio. It all started with the invention of the transistor in the 1950s. Transistors replaced vacuum tubes, making radios smaller, lighter, and more portable. The first transistor radio was released in 1954, but it wasn't until the 1960s that they became a cultural phenomenon. These radios used a combination of transistors, diodes, and resistors to amplify and detect radio signals. The radios were powered by batteries, making them truly portable. People could listen to music, news, and sports on the go, which was a game changer for the music industry and popular culture. Transistor radio helped to democratize access to music, making it possible for people to listen to their favorite artists and genres anywhere, anytime. They also played a key role in the development of rock and roll, folk, and other popular music genres of the 1960s. Transistor radios paved the way for modern portable music players, from Walkmans to iPods to smartphones. While they may seem old-fashioned today, transistor radios played a significant role in shaping the music industry and popular culture. At number 2, we have encyclopedias. Before the internet, Google, and Wikipedia, people relied on the encyclopedia whenever they needed to do research. An encyclopedia is a comprehensive reference book that contains information on a wide range of topics, from science and history to art and culture. In the 1960s, encyclopedias were a staple in many homes, schools, and libraries. Some of the most well-known encyclopedias of the time included World Book, Encyclopedia Britannica, and Collier's Encyclopedia. These encyclopedias were often sold door-to-door by salesmen and were a significant investment for many families. So, how did people use encyclopedias in the 1960s? Well, for starters, they were a go-to resource for homework and research projects. People would also use encyclopedias to learn about current events, science, and history. And of course, encyclopedias were also a great way to settle trivia disputes and arguments. These comprehensive reference books were a must-have for students and researchers in the 1960s, but have since been replaced by online resources and digital databases. Finally, in today's video, we have a tool used for calculation in the 1960s. Slide rule. Before the advent of calculators, computers, or smartphones, people relied on the slide rule. A slide rule is a mechanical device used for calculations, particularly multiplication, division, and trigonometry. It consists of a set of logarithmic scales that slide against each other to perform calculations. In the 1960s, slide rules were a staple in many fields, including engineering, physics, and mathematics. So, how do you use a slide rule? Well, it's actually quite simple once you get the hang of it. You align the scales to perform calculations and then read off the answer. For example, to multiply two numbers, you would align the scales and then read off the product. It's a bit like using a mechanical calculator, but with a lot more manual effort. Slide rule allowed people to perform complex calculations quickly and accurately, which was essential for many fields, including space exploration, nuclear physics, and computer science. They also played a key role in the development of many modern technologies, including computers, rockets, and medical devices. With the advent of electronic calculators in the 1970s, slide rules began to fall out of favor. They were eventually replaced by computers and other digital devices, which made calculations faster, easier, and more accurate. Today, slide rules are mostly collector's items, but they still hold a special place in the hearts of many retro tech enthusiasts. And there you have it, folks, a look back at 10 things that were a must-have in the 1960s. While they may seem old-fashioned today, these items played a crucial role in the development of many modern technologies. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fun content. And if you have any retro stories or memories, be sure to share them in the comments below.